Hello, and welcome to Echo Ekoji, our podcast, episode 5. My name is Rich Wolford, and I'm your host, and today we will be talking with Sangha member Yuko Keicho. Hello, Yuko, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Rich. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Sure. Before we get into the real meaty questions, we want to get to know you a little bit and learn about your background. So can you tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you live, work, family, that sort of thing?
Okay. So I came to the United States in 1994, and since then I've been living here. I spent 1 year in Sri Lanka, meanwhile, and so I live now in Arlington, Virginia. I have 2 daughters and a husband. The 2 daughters are in college. My husband is now based in Beijing, working in China.
Wow, a true multinational situation. That's great. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So let's just jump right in here. How long have you been a Buddhist?
Well, I'd say from 2005, that is when I came to Ekoji for the first time. Although I'm originally from Japan, I was not practicing Buddhism back in Japan. I just went to temples for funerals, most of the ordinary Japanese people.
Well, that is interesting, because I think a lot of people will think, well, you're originally from Japan, you must be really steeped in Buddhism, you must have been raised in it, and that's not the case in the country at large, right?
No, and especially for young generations, the general perceptions of Buddhism is that is something for funeral, and that is something for old people.
It's interesting. I've heard that before as well. It's very interesting. So how did you find Ekoji?
Well, so I was looking for a Sunday school for my children when they became 5 years old and 6 years old. And because I was not particularly religious in any particular way, so I was open to any religions. I would have been fine with the Sunday schools from a Christian church or any other religions. And while I was looking for Sunday school, I read about Ekoji in the community newspaper in Arlington. So there was an article about Ekoji. So I didn't know that there was a Buddhist church. So I decided to check the Ekoji, and one day I came with my husband to observe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, you just got to know the temple?
Yes, right.
That's interesting. Just a little bit about your daughters. So how old were they when they attended?
So they were 5 and 6 years old, and they loved Dharma school.
Yeah.
And they had a wonderful, wonderful teacher called Miss Melanie, and she really made the class lots of fun, lots of crafts and good stories, and so they really enjoyed it. And so that drew me into more activities of Ekoji. So at the beginning, I was just dropping them on into the class, and I was just waiting in the car. Right? But because they loved the classes so much, I started helping the class. And the turning point for me is one children's service, which they were attending. So I was sitting in the back of the Hondo and listening, and Rev Honda was sharing a story with children, and that was a story of a cherry tree. So it was in spring, and the cherry trees were blooming. And so he showed a very beautiful picture of cherry trees with cherry flowers blooming, and that picture he himself painted, and asked the children, which part do you like the best in this picture?
Yeah.
And the children said, flowers, flowers, it's beautiful, pink. And then Rev Honda said that, so which part of the tree is the most important? And then most children said, flowers, flowers, it's beautiful. And then the Rev Honda asked, is that really? So let's think how flowers actually grow. And he started saying that, flower just do not come out on its own. It needs branch, it needs a trunk. But what is most important is actually hidden. And he said that the most important thing of this tree is actually roots. And the roots is supporting the tree, and it gets the nutrition from the soils, and it sends the nutrition to the leaves and the branches, and eventually it make flowers bloom. So the roots is very important, but because it's underground, people don't usually see it. And then this is a beautiful part. So he said that you are the flowers. You are blooming, and you are going to bloom more. But don't forget that you are supported by roots. And those roots are your parents, your grandparents, and all these Sangha people, your teachers. So don't forget that. So when I heard that story, I said, wow, what a nice story. And it really kind of touched my heart, right? And
especially as a parent.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and at that moment, I thought maybe Buddhism is not for old people. Right? And so maybe Buddhism is something very universal and helps even me to navigate my life. So I started coming to adult service. So that is the beginning of my Buddhism.
What's fascinating is that every person we talk to has a different journey here. It's almost like there are as many ways to get here as there are unique people, and that's a really, really fun story. And I do want to get back to some of your experiences with Ekoji, but I am curious. Your daughters are in college.
Yes.
So they went all the way through Dharma school, right? Through high school?
Yes, mostly. Mm-hmm.
So what would you say, how do you think learning about Buddhism has helped them as they become young adults?
Oh, yes. So they internalized the Dharma messages so much because they started, when they were very young. Mm-hmm. They know the history of Buddhism and Gautama Siddhartha much better than I do. And the beautiful thing is that they often talk about dana. So when my daughter says that, okay, I want to do this, because it's dana.
Yeah.
I want to help this person because I think it's dana, right? So I think the concept of dana kind of, ingrained in their body and mind. So I think that's very beautiful. And also, I think they also internalize the concept of the life is suffering. This is the interesting part because they are so young and they heard that life is suffering. So maybe it was a little bit too much, right? But they took it so deeply.
Yes.
And then so when one of my daughter got to break up with her boyfriend and crying a lot, right? And another daughter came and said, do you remember at Ekoji, life is suffering? Nothing is permanent. Things change.
Quite useful, actually.
So I think they got the coping skills.
Their coping skills. That's Yes. Yeah, things change, and not always for the better. Right? Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to hear. Well, one of the things we want to highlight in these podcasts is just, how you've been part of the Sangha, and I know you've had some. I'd like to share what kind of leadership or volunteer positions you've had, and kind of what impact that's had on you as a Sangha member.
So I participated in Sangha, well, first of all, as a parent and of Dharma schools. So I helped a lot when my kids are in Dharma school on various activities and events. So that was wonderful. I was able to connect with other parents and kind of celebrate the growth of children together. Also, I served as the treasury and board member for 1 year, and that gave me holistic views how temple functions and how many people are actually supporting. And so when I was just coming to services, I was more receiving side and took everything as granted. But when I was on board members, I realized that there are lots of efforts, which we don't see for people, to get the Dharma. So that increased my appreciation. And then
If I may say, the service is the flower and the board is the roots.
Exactly. And I think I listened to a Dharma message long time ago by Gordon, right? And he says that when we come to Hondo, we always see the flowers in other, but we never think who actually bought the flowers, who made the arrangement, right? So I think it's wonderful that I think we are cared by other Sangha members, right? Also, I have been helping temple as a music coordinator, and this came as a kind of unexpected, through an unexpected development. So when I was helping children's Dharma schools, and the children were singing songs and without any accompaniment, and because I happen to play piano and some skills, I offer that I can play, I can accompany with piano. So that kind of started my music engagement with Ekoji. And then when the pianist who was playing for adult service went on to a military service, he asked me to substitute his role for 1 year. So that's when I started playing for the adult services. And then I started having a bit of more ideas and started music services, in which Sangha members enjoyed a lot. And also I myself kind of felt rewarded because playing piano, I didn't think that it was a useful skill. I just took piano lessons when I was small. But now I'm kind of benefiting, and I can offer something, useful to the community, which I felt a very rewarding experience.
Well, I know, I feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the Sangha. We're very grateful for your music. It's really helped enrich us quite a bit, and it is really a great gift. Thank you. And one of the questions, I'm curious, is that do you see any relation between the music and incorporating music into Buddhism, and vice versa? How does Buddhism affect the music, and does music affect Buddhism as you experience it here?
Yes, I think for me, music is an expression of emotions, and in a way, it's a language. So some people absorb messages, through words, maybe. Some people absorb messages from visions, right? The photos or pictures. Some people absorb messages through music by ear. So I think I'm glad that we are offering various ways of giving messages. So I see music in that way,
That is fascinating. I think that's a big part of Buddhism teaching. I think Gordon used to talk about it, it's called upaya. Expedient means how do you reach someone? And if you reach them through music, through video, through words, through study, the important thing is you're reaching people. That's great. That's a really keen insight. Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of good things that we've been talking about. We always like to learn from folks if there's been any challenges to your path as a Buddhist, just culturally, family, friends. I mean, was it difficult to convert? Is it easy to talk about with your family or your friends? I mean, are there any challenges you face?
So, because I'm originally from a Buddhism environment, although I didn't have a kind of hurdles to overcome, to become a Buddhist. It was quite natural progressions, right? But I'd like to maybe talk about how Buddhism has helped me in my life.
Yes, that was my next question.
Yeah. So temple has been a kind of a place where I can reorient myself, right? So during the weekdays, I'm drawn to many different directions in family and work, and sometimes I get too absorbed into nonsense or frustrated situations, and I tend to lose my ground. So when I come to temple, I can distance myself from all those things and reset myself for the next week. And the best part of the Ekoji, I mean the things I like the best, not the soft part, the physical part, is actually the garden of Ekoji, right? And so when I sit one of the chairs next to the windows, I always look at garden, and there are some what is it called, stones, ornamental stones, right?
Yes.
In the garden, and that is the thing that I like the best in this temple, because this ornamental stone sit there, and always sit there, and doesn't complain, but observing everything, floating around the stone, and in rainy days, in snowy days, in sunny days, it just sits there, and I really feel resilience from that existence. So when I get confused, I watch that ornamental stone in the garden. That's how I calm myself.
That's really fascinating. It's a little very Buddha-like to just sit and have reality come and wash over you and come and go and just be, watching it all. That's really interesting. Well, I think it's just great to have the ability to have so many ways to connect, through a service, through the garden. So, and a shameless plug, right? We need to keep maintaining our garden, and so we all the Sangha can experience it. That's great. One of the things that the purpose of this podcast really is to try to share the Dharma with an ever-growing Sangha. And so if someone was listening, and what advice would you offer someone who's curious about Buddhism or considering coming to Ekoji?
I think talking to Sangha members, and just ask questions, or share your doubt, I think will open up yourself and help you to find answers. I don't think that the temple is a place to give you an answer, but create an opportunities where you can start finding solutions or answers. So I think talking to the people who are also interested in Buddhism helps a lot. Let me give you an example.
Sure.
So when I was struggling a little bit in my work with heavy responsibilities and overwhelming work, I spoke to Rev Honda, what shall I do, and asked for his advice. And so he gave me old Japanese saying, which is Issun Senkan. So literally what it means is that 2-inch square lumber, right? Which carpenters use when they build a house,
yes.
right? So that lumber, a piece of lumber, can hold 1,000 pounds if it is planted and stick to the ground right up.
Vertically.
Right. Not
it can bear the weight.
Yeah, bear the weight, right?
Yes.
So he gave that word to me, and think about it, right? And then you can find your approach in the situation. So that is an example that just talking to somebody, it gives us a hint how you can overcome a situation.
That's great, and I think that's so what Buddhism is all about. Your path is your path. I think I heard someone say, always a thank you, never a please. Right? We express gratitude, but we're not asking. And the Dharma is there for us to learn and discover and come to our answers. The answers aren't simply just given to us and, we take them away. And so it has very much so it is great advice. You come to the temple with really good questions and be prepared to listen, but then the work starts, right? And that is a good way to frame up, how approaching a temple would be. But would you say also, literally coming from the search, you were prepared to look for almost any spiritual path for your children. Did you get a sense that when you got here, gosh, this is a pretty welcoming temple, and
yes,
you were able to jump right in? Is that a fair way to describe it?
Actually, I went to a Catholic kindergarten, so I read Bibles when I was small, and when I was in teenagers, actually I went to a Catholic church to take a Bible course. So, and at one point I was interested in Christianity, but I felt that people are kind of categorized. You are good people or bad people. So that it didn't go with me. It didn't go well with my kind of, the thinking.
Yes.
So when I came to Ekoji, I felt that it's very inclusive.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So it was not intimidating, and so I think the big comfort is that I'm okay as I am, right? Right. So I don't have to change myself, or I don't. So it's very comforting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's important, especially if you're new. Not being intimidated is very important.
Right,
That's
right,
good
right.
to hear. That's very good to hear. Just a couple more questions, and this one's, maybe just kind of summing it up, but really, what does being a Sangha member at Ekoji really mean to you? If you were just to say, I am a Sangha member, and that means what?
Oh, I have a place to go. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And this Sangha, has lots of interesting people with very good heart, and I meet people whom I wouldn't meet in my workplace, in my friendship circles. So, it kind of opens up my perceptions of people, understanding of people, how people live, the various challenges that people have. So I think it makes me more compassionate in general, right? And I feel that when I have a struggle or difficulties, I can always come to Sangha. Yeah. So that is.
That's wonderful, and I think that's what we strive for. We want people to feel like this is their home, for in that way. So thank you. And I have one last question. It's one I'm starting to build a library on, if you will, which is central to our practice is recitation of the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu. We say it 20 times every service. We're encouraged to say it throughout the day. It's in all the things we read. So when you say that, what is going through your mind when you recite the Nembutsu?
I have a guiding post.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. So, we are kind of in the middle of big oceans without any kind of, pre-plotted
course, right? Yeah.
But when I say Namamidabutsu, I hear that it's okay. So you are not really lost.
Yes.
I'm here to guide you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Well, that concludes our podcast. As you know, we publish this on YouTube, Echo Ekoji, and you can find it there. Also, we encourage people to come to ekoji.org to learn more, and hope that they'll continue to experience the Dharma with us. And Yuko, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experience with Ekoji. It was fascinating. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to my stories.